Hi, and welcome to the Harp 2.0 workshop, where we are going to talk about for the next 30 minutes or so the intricacies of Harp and how to navigate through them for you and for your family. First, I want to cover just real quickly about, well, heck, why would you listen to this guy? And it's a valid question because there are a lot of people offering information online about Harp, a fraction of which is accurate. And let's just cover just very briefly why you would listen to me. My name is Chris Brown. I'm one of less than 25 certified mortgage planning specialists in the entire state of Florida. I am also a member of the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. I have been recognized nationally as a Harp expert and was ranked as one of the top 40 under 40 mortgage professionals by National Mortgage Professional magazine for the last 2 years. What we are going to cover is the who, what, where, when, why, how of Harp. We're going to talk about who qualifies, who doesn't, what the next best steps are, where to begin, when you can apply, and kind of the timing of the process so that you kind of know what to expect. Why would Fannie and Freddie do this? Why would the banks do this? Why would you participate? And a step-by-step guide to navigate you through that turbulent process so that you can come out and have a safe landing at the end of your journey. And then as we wrap things up, we'll talk about how much is my current mortgage costing me, Chris, with a calculator and a tool that will help you figure out how much you personally will save. There are three main criteria for being qualified for Harp. Now, this doesn't address the underwriting process, but just those that qualify for the Harp guidelines. The first, and I actually have these in, I'm going to start with number 2. First, it has to be backed by Fannie or Freddie. And you can find out, if you don't know, by going to floridaharpguide.com. floridaharpguide.com was featured on Fox News locally and is a great resource to begin inquiring about the Harp program. We will be referencing that website quite frequently throughout this workshop. The second kind of step in the trifecta of qualification is when your mortgage was backed by Fannie or Freddie. Their guidelines say that that needs to have happened by June 1st of 2009. Now, because the actual backing of your mortgage happens after closing, there is no great way for you as a homeowner to know when that happened. So one of the dates that we share with people is, okay, if you closed on your current mortgage before on or before the beginning of March, you probably qualify, because that process of quote-unquote backing could take upwards of 75 days or so. In some unique cases, it takes much longer because they may service the loan before selling it to Fannie or Freddie, they meaning the bank that you got the loan with, in which case you would not qualify for Harp. And the third of the trifecta parts is no late payments. Fannie and Freddie guidelines state specifically that you can have no late payments in the most recent 6 months and only one late payment in the last year. Now, does that mean if you were late today that you cannot take advantage of Harp? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It may mean the answer is not yet, but it doesn't mean that the answer is no. Because if you were late today, you were possibly 7 months away from being able to take advantage of a Harp refinance. So if anyone does tell you that you can't do it because you're late, they are obviously not a problem solver trying to think ahead for you. Who are the lenders that are participating? If you had told me that so few lenders were actually going to participate, I wouldn't have believed you. In Harp 2.0, or in other words, Harp Unlimited, because Fannie and Freddie has limited the reps and warrants, that's some inside jargon there, I apologize for that, of liability for lenders that do facilitate a new transaction with an upside-down property. I would have thought more players on the lending side would have come to the table. So if you hear that someone isn't doing it, that doesn't mean nobody is doing it. If your current lender isn't, it does not mean that you're stuck with them. Even if they say that they are the only ones that would have been able to do it for you, that is dead wrong. You may have somebody in a call center, nothing wrong with working in a call center, but you may have somebody that is certainly not a licensed mortgage loan originator and may just be somebody that hasn't been entirely briefed on the Harp program to be able to offer accurate advice. And that is part of the reason of this workshop we're going through today, is to properly inform families just like you. Now, if they say they can do it and they are the only ones, that's confusing. That too is a false statement, because any participating lender can help any family that chooses to take advantage of Harp. So you do not have that limitations. So what are the next best steps? The first one is to go to floridaharpguide.com and look at the quick qualifier. The next is once you hit submit on floridaharpguide.com, it will actually take you to the second stage, which is the pre-application. If you choose to type freescenarioreview.com in directly, that will certainly take you to the pre-application as well. And then the third step is to submit the docs needed list. Now, if you need to get that list so you know what to start putting together, we invite you to reach out to us. Our number is in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. If you've refinanced in the past, you'll be somewhat familiar with those list of items, which is going to be your bank statements, your pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns, copies of driver's licenses, those kinds of things. In fact, you may even remember that from when you bought your home as well. What is the process? Well, first, the next steps that I mentioned on the previous slide. Then what happens is we take the docs that you provided to us, we kind of button up the application that you submitted online, dot the I's and cross the T's to make sure everything is as accurate as possible and yet in the best light as possible for the lender and the automated underwriting system. Then on your behalf, we will run that through the automated system at no cost to see if what kind of feedback we get. And if we get a 2 thumbs up, we'll reach out to you and say, hey, looks good. Here's how much you could expect to save. In many cases, families are responding back saying, hey, looks good, Chris. We love saving money. Let's go ahead and get rolling. We submit that buttoned up version of the application to you for you to sign and authorize and get back to us. Then we have the conversation about locking the rate. 2 things to consider when it comes to locking a rate. First is when strategically to lock the rate, because just because you can lock it on a specific day does not mean it is most advantageous. This is one of the differences between working with a call center or 1-800-GET-A-MORTGAGE, if you will, and working with a true mortgage planner. Is it's one thing to know today's rate. All you have to do is be able to read to know today's rate. The trick is knowing tomorrow's rate. And through the tools that we have invested in, we can predict that with a reasonable level of accuracy. Certainly there are always things that can come into play, but it certainly can be an educated and informed guesstimate. But if rates are trending in a manner where it's not advantageous for you to lock now, we will share that with you. The second thing in looking at rates is how long to lock them for. And we'll get into that a little bit more here in the next slide or two. Once it is locked and we have the forms authorized by you to submit, we will then send them into the underwriting process and we're off to the races. Where is Harp available? Well, Harp is available nationwide. It's not just unique to Florida. If you're watching this and you do not have a home in Florida that you're looking at taking advantage of Harp with, but rather in another state because of our new relationship over the last couple of years with National Mortgage Professional Magazine, we have a network of absolute pros where my team and I probably know somebody in your state that we could introduce you to that is worthy of such a transaction. We invite you to reach out to us. Again, the numbers in the bottom left-hand side of your screen, and we can help you make that connection. Here's a website for the frequently asked questions. We have recorded these both in video format individually, as well as have them in a Word document. You can find out if you're backed by Fannie or Freddie by these two lookup web addresses. And again, the very best place to get started was the site featured on Fox News here locally at FloridaHarpGuide.com. Harp is available now. If you're watching this, it's already underway, meaning that you and your family can go ahead and participate after you have uncovered whether your property indeed qualifies with that trifecta of qualification. You can simply pause or go back in this workshop as you're watching it now to see what those were. Harp is good through the end of 2013. Right now is slated to sunset on December 31st, 2013. The process right now is taking between 45 and 60 days. It's really kind of anyone's guess. It's uncharted territory. What that will be as Harp continues, whether lenders ramp up their capacity by hiring on additional underwriters, or whether the volume of the families that choose to participate in Harp simply outpace the rate at which lenders can acquire more underwriters, it may stretch out that timeline. We are talking with folks about locking for 60 days. Be wary of lenders that want to lock you for less than 45 or even 60 days, because they will do that to make their numbers look better, only to know in their heart of hearts that they will not be able to close in that time period, and then the deal changes on you as the homeowner midway through the process. A lot of lenders act, well, not a lot, many lenders do act with that type of approach. We would rather make sure we're offering our very best advice, putting you in the most secure position so that as you move through the process, the only surprises are happy surprises. You say, well, Chris, why would Fannie and Freddie do this? What's this costing the taxpayers? I hear that a lot. Here's the great news. This doesn't cost the taxpayers anything. And here's why Fannie and Freddie would do this. Well, let me back up. It doesn't cost the taxpayers anything because there is no principal write-down. This is not a principal write-down initiative. It is simply allowing families that are upside down on their homes to be able to participate in the interest rates that exist today that are much better than the interest rates they got when they bought or most recently refinanced their home. Now, why would Fannie and Freddie do this? It's not because they're these great benevolent organizations, as I'm sure you're probably getting a slight chuckle out of that as well. It's because these loans that are already backed by Fannie and Freddie already have them assuming the risk of default. And by helping families or allowing families like you to refinance, it is simply decreasing the probability of a segment of their portfolio from defaulting. So imagine this is a defensive strategy for Fannie and Freddie to keep their portfolios performing and not defaulting. Why would banks do this? A couple reasons. One, it allows them to begin servicing loans that are currently backed by other lenders, and it also just stimulates commerce. They've got people that they're paying salaries and health benefits and paying for paper clips and pens and coffee and all that stuff for, even when they are not generating revenue. The fact that people go through the refinance process stimulates commerce everywhere from the bank themselves to the mortgage brokers or correspondent lenders bringing them the business, as well as the title companies, the appraisers, and even filling state coffers through the form of intangible tax and document stamps. Why would you do this? I think that's probably the most obvious of the three, is because it helps improve your cash flow to allow you to be able to put more gas in the tank, more groceries on the table, or more long-term things like fund children's education or plan for retirement. How do you take steps to move forward? Step one, again, is the FloridaHarpGuide.com. Step two is FreeScenarioReview.com. Once again, when you go to floridaharpguide.com and you hit submit, it will automatically take you to step 2, as well as send you an auto-generated email with the items that need gathering for the process. Now, once you have those documents, there are several ways to get them to us. There's actually 4 different ways. One, you could fax it. Just make sure you send it to attention Chris and Penny. You can scan and email them. Here's the email to send them to. And you could either snail mail copies. Please do not send originals. Please send copies. Or if it's not geographically limiting, we invite you to come down. We love to meet the families that we have the opportunity to work with and shake hands and share a smile and maybe share a little bit of time together. If you are going to come by, we do ask that you let us know, and you can do that with the phone number in the bottom left-hand side of your screen, just so we can be sure that we can carve out that time and that we're even in the office and not out at a speaking engagement or meeting with a family for a closing. I'm going to shift over now into some of the most frequently asked questions. The first would be, how upside down is all right? I mean, Chris, I owe double what my home's worth. Is that okay? Well, we got what the automated underwriting system calls a quote-unquote approve eligible as recent as the last 2 days for a property that the loan-to-value was 202%. That means they owed a little bit more than double what their home was worth, and it looks like they are going to indeed be able to take advantage of Harp. Other folks, especially because of the timing of 05 and 06 and even into 07, when we kind of hit our peak, many folks were getting second mortgages, either after the fact from a purchase or while they were purchasing their home in order to avoid private mortgage insurance. If you have a second mortgage, you are still eligible for Harp. That does not throw you out. Now, you are not able to roll in the second mortgage. Let me be very clear. You do not roll your second mortgage into the new Harp refinance. However, you are able to put it to the side, get a new first mortgage, and the second mortgage simply regains its position as a second lien on the property. Fannie and Freddie do not have any direct credit restrictions. However, just about every lender has their own overlay. Again, that's a little bit of internal jargon. But if you imagine Fannie and Freddie's guideline as a fisherman's net with 1-inch squares, every lender has their own overlays that may have more restrictions. Call those half-inch square holes in that fisherman's net. So they will be a bit more restrictive maybe than the basic guidelines from Fannie and Freddie. And just about all of the next questions I'm going to be covering on this in the next slide deal with those overlays from different lenders. So we're finding that lenders are willing to go down as low as 620 when it comes to credit scores. I've not yet found anybody below that, but that is certainly subject to change. There are no income restrictions per se, meaning it's if you can't make too much money to participate in Harp. A lot of times things that are initiated by the government have phase-outs for those higher income earners. That is not the case with Harp. Is there restrictions on not earning enough? Sort of. You certainly are not thrown out if you're making less. But it's not just the income, it's the relationship between your income and your outflow. They call that the debt-to-income ratio. We have seen very high debt-to-income ratios still work, upwards into the 60s. So to a degree, there is a restriction on not having enough income, but it may be more lenient than you would first imagine. There are no occupancy restrictions, meaning that it works with primary residence, second homes, and investment properties, even if that investment property was once a primary residence. You are still eligible under Harp. There are not PMI restrictions, but there are only a handful of lenders that will facilitate a Harp refinance with families with PMI. The good news is we have multiple resources for that. We even have resources for LPMI. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. It probably means you don't have it. But for those that do have it, they'll recognize the term and just know that we have resources for LPMI as well. This works for single-family homes. It works with townhomes. It even works for condos. So that's a question we get a lot of, Chris, I've got a condo, or condos allowed? Again, different lenders, yes. Other lenders say no. We have resources to be able to do condos, single families, and townhouses under Harp. We talked previously about the late payment restrictions. No late payments in the most recent 6 months, only one in the most recent 12 months. And if you're late today, you're just simply needing to wait to be able to take advantage of Harp. And since it's good through the end of 2013, at the time of this recording, there is still plenty of time to get that in line. Now let's talk about what your current mortgage is costing you. In this specific example, I'm sharing a loan that was originally taken out in 2006 for $225,000. You'll see 4 columns, both current and option 1, 2, and 3. Once we are done with this slide, I will share with you a web address where you can go and run your own personal situation through. But if you have gotten a $225,000 loan in 2006, your estimated outstanding balance now would be $207,147. With options 1, 2, and 3, we have interest rates in the mid to low 4s, which is reflective of where rates are at the time of this recording. Because those change on a daily and sometimes several times per day, you definitely want to connect with us to find out where rates are. You'll see with the second set of double red lines what your anticipating savings would be with the change in rate, ranging from the high 300s to low 400s. Below that, you'll see that we estimated closing costs at being about 2% of the loan amount. It's actually a high estimate, but as I shared before, when it comes to how certified mortgage planners goes about their business practice, we only like happy surprises, not ugly ones. So I would rather overstate this number than understate it, only to get you to have an unreasonable expectation and have the deal change on you down the road. You'll see with the third set of double red lines, the average number of months it would take to recoup those closing costs. Meaning, if you look at option 1, if you invested $41.43 into a refinance and saved $375 a month, it would take you 11 months to recoup that $4,143. If you're planning on staying in the home, that is typically a no-brainer decision. If that number is less than 48 months, we're actually less than a year, which just magnifies the impact of making such a wise decision to participate in Harp. One of the things I do want to point out here is you can roll in the closing costs, meaning you do not have to pay those dollars out of pocket. The rules are a little different between Fannie and Freddie, so certainly reach out to us for clarity. If you're on Freddie, the restrictions are a little bit tighter. If you're on Fannie, good news, you don't have to worry about that. But it is a very, very easy decision to make, especially when you look at option 3, that it takes less than 9.5 months to recover those dollars invested. And you'll see the very, very bottom line, over a 10-year period, you're saving anywhere from $40,000 to almost $50,000 for your family. And the question I like to ask here is, what kind of impact would an additional $40,000 to $50,000 have on the safety and security of your family's finances in the future? Well, that's great, Chris, but my numbers are different. How do I go run the examples myself? You'll see here that at budurl.com/harp refi calculator, you can go and run an infinite number of what-if scenarios. So now what? I think we covered this slide a little bit earlier. I wanted to circle it back around as we wrap down here today with our time together. The very best place to start is floridaharpguide.com. Once you hit submit on that quick qualifier form, it will automatically take you to step 2, where you can complete the online pre-application. That process might take you about 20 minutes, and once you hit submit on the quick qualifier form as well, it will also send you an automatically generated email with the docs needed list, so you can start putting those things together. And then here are the manners in which you can get them to us. Since we covered this slide again, I'm not going to enumerate those. If you'd like to write them down and had not previously, please press pause now. For those that already have, I'm going to move forward. Here's what the FloridaHarpGuide.com looks like. You'll see that it simply is a 60 to 90 second process to get through the form. You'll see that we provided courtesy links for you to be able to look up on Fannie and Freddie's individual sites to see if your property is backed by Fannie or Freddie, and then there is an interview on Fox News locally. Once again, here's that final slide. We appreciate your interest in Harp. We hope that you have found value in this, and we would invite you to reach out to us with any unanswered questions that may exist, or if you've got particular scenario questions for you and your family that might need that individual attention, we would love to extend that to you. Simply use the number in the bottom left-hand side of your screen, and we look forward to the opportunity to chat with you and those you care about. Thank you, and have a great rest of the day.